This half hour, live from the front lines. What is Saddam thinking?
Good evening once again. Today, another apparent Saddam sighting, this time with a twist. He appeared with his two sons, but was it really Saddam or was it an imposter? And when was the tape made? Is it all part of a strategy to keep the regime alive? Also, a lot of the atrocities anticipated at the outset of this war have mostly failed to materialize, at least so far. Does that mean Saddam Hussein is not in control? To answer the question, CNN senior political analyst Bill Schneider is joining us now live. Bill?
Well, Wolf, before the war, military analysts made a lot of predictions about what Iraq might do to stop the coalition. But many of them have not happened. Well, why not? Immediately after being attacked, some feared the Iraqi regime might fire missiles at Israel, as it did in 1991, to try to draw Israel into the war. It didn't. USA Today cited military experts who said the Iraqi army could slow a U.S. advance by blowing up bridges, using refugees to clog roads, and flooding rivers to wash out roads. A dam near Karbala was wired but not demolished. And as for the bridges,
the 5th Corps forces were able to seize a bridge intact over the Euphrates River. It was, in fact, rigged for demolition. They were able to remove the demolition, cross the bridge, and continue the attack.
In 1991, the Iraqis set the oil fields of Kuwait ablaze. There were a few fires early on, but nothing like the conflagrations of 1991. Everyone expected Iraq to unleash chemical and biological weapons. So far, it hasn't happened. What about Saddam's elite Republican Guard units that were supposed to form a ring of steel around Baghdad? The steel seemed to melt quickly under Allied bombardment.
We have penetrated the defensive ring that was set by the Republican Guard forces.
What happened? The Iraqis may not want to use chemical and biological weapons even if they have them, and hand the U.S. an immense propaganda victory. It could be there is no command and control structure, and Iraqi generals are fearful of taking provocative actions on their own, especially because President Bush has issued a serious warning.
That if you launch a weapon of mass destruction, you'll be tried as a war criminal.
Maybe Saddam Hussein is not in control, and those who are looking ahead to after the war. They have to ask themselves, do they want to be put on trial, or do they want to have a future in the new Iraq? Wolf?
Well, all of this may still be premature because there's still some serious fighting ahead for U.S. and coalition forces. But as you take a look at the basic bottom line right now, all those worst-case scenarios, those dire fears that all of us, of course, had not yet materializing, now week 3, what goes through your mind, Bill?
The only thing that goes through my mind, the one thing is, could all this be some sort of a trap where they're making it easy for the Allied forces to get to Baghdad because they're trying to lure them into some kind of a trap they have for them in Baghdad? Just yesterday, as we all know, the information minister said if you go into Baghdad, we're prepared. It'll be another Dien Bien Phu. There'll be all kinds of unconventional tactics used. Now, that just might be blowing smoke. But you've got to worry about that Battle of Baghdad. Urban warfare is not an easy or a fast thing.
There are still plenty of nightmare scenarios out there. Thanks, Bill Schneider, for that analysis. And as we continue to explore the end game of the Saddam Hussein regime, let's look at what diplomatic cards might still be up its sleeve. And could those in control be stalling for time until they get an exit deal? We're joined now by William Ury. He's the director of Harvard University's Project on Preventing War and is considered one of the world's leading negotiators. Professor, thanks so much for joining us. Donald Rumsfeld says there's nothing left to negotiate with Saddam Hussein. He had his chance, he blew it, and now it's all over for him. I know you disagree on that front.
Well, I really do think there's an enormous negotiating opportunity here. No one knows what can happen, but the opportunity is to save perhaps tens of thousands of lives, civilians, military, Americans, British, Iraqi, through a negotiated surrender. What would it take? It would take a pause, perhaps, in the attack. It would take a mediator. Perhaps the Russians could do the job, or perhaps the Vatican. And it would take some kind of deal where there's some kind of surrender of the Iraqi forces, There's perhaps some kind of amnesty offered, perhaps some kind of safe passage out of the country. Now that would be a bitter pill to swallow, to have Saddam Hussein leave, but would it be worth saving tens of thousands of lives and sparing Baghdad? Might be.
You know, when that idea was floated a couple of days ago, perhaps Yevgeny Primakov, the former Soviet envoy to Baghdad, coming up with some sort of ceasefire. The Pentagon, Donald Rumsfeld, just flatly said that is not happening. That's simply out of the cards. Are there any precedents, as far as you know, when there's been such an entrenched position on one side, namely the Bush administration, and yet in the end they are open to some sort of negotiated deal?
It does happen, for sure. I mean, it happened with Mengistu in Ethiopia. It happened with Idi Amin in Uganda. It happened with Duvalier in Haiti. In all those cases, the dictators said they would never leave. The other side said there was no chance, and in fact, a deal was worked out. And it's a real choice. Do we want to trade American lives, Iraqi lives, for the possibility of an Iraq in which Saddam is out, we win a major victory, it's a victory for the world, and I think that's a real choice, and I think there may be others other than Rumsfeld who may take a different take on that.
Well, do you think that Saddam Hussein, let's go to the other side, that Saddam Hussein, who had every opportunity to negotiate his exile before the war, that he might now reconsider?
I think there are three reasons to think that he might. One is, before the war, he didn't know for sure that he would lose. Now he can see that he's encircled, that he will lose. In fact, he'll lose power, he may lose his life. The second thing is that he can now say that he's acquitted himself with bravery, that his forces have withstood this great military superpower for as long as it's did. And the third reason is that he often refers to the destruction, the utter destruction of Baghdad in 1258 by the Mongols, and what a tragedy it was. And maybe he could say, look, I'm going to spare the great city of Baghdad, the people of Iraq, the recurrence of the same tragedy, and take an exit and claim it as a victory, as he would.
Professor Urey of Harvard University, thanks for joining us. Very interesting. Anderson, back to you.
Next, we'll take a look at Saddam's military options and our special look at what is Saddam thinking when we come back.
Fleetwood Mac is back with an album of 18 brand new songs featuring Peacekeeper. Say You Will, the new album from Fleetwood Mac, in stores April 15th.
Even in the beginning, we were building some of the most technologically advanced cars in the world. We still are.
When conditions are at their worst, Quest people are at their best.
We know sometimes disaster strikes.
Floods,
Fires, hurricanes.
Earthquake in Seattle.
I think we rise to those challenges.
Situations like that where minutes count.
Helping their customers.
Employees have always rallied around blizzards.
We are comforted in the knowledge that we can respond quickly when needed.
I mean, you realize, how important what you do is.
To the customer, we are the front line.
The spirit of service, there for you.
CNN's continuing coverage of the war in Iraq. You have seen him or someone posing as him on the streets of Baghdad. But where is Saddam now that U.S. forces are invading the Iraqi capital? As U.S.-led forces roam around the heart of Baghdad, relief supplies are following in their wake. Tactics and tools of fighting in urban combat. These stories and more tonight at 10 Eastern. Stay with CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Well, to get a better understanding of the situation, let's assume that Saddam Hussein may not be in control. Let's also assume that those who are know they are in the end game, knowing defeat.